Okay, so let's talk about prepping for your still life photo session. Now, depending on how much you're going to go into the detail of this, your prep can be relatively basic or there can be quite a lot to go into it. Okay, so we're going to keep things basic for the moment. Let's start off super basic. Camera. Okay, nice and simple. I'm using my Nikon D5200. I'm going to be using my Sigma 18-250 lens. Kit lens will probably work absolutely fine for this, your 18-55. If that's what you have, that's not a problem. This is just the lens I tend to have with me most of the time. Now, you can do this freehand. However, if possible, have it on a tripod. There are a couple of different reasons for that. One is that, depending on, again, how you're setting things up, we're going to be shooting where light maybe isn't ideal, and so we're going to be using slightly longer exposure times. Okay, so if it's handheld, that's going to introduce a fair bit of camera shake and it's not going to be ideal for the end result. Now, if you have one available, a remote trigger is a great thing to use, okay, because we'll be using these slower shutter speeds. Either wired or wireless is absolutely fine. Remote trigger just means you can keep your hands off the camera itself, and that will help reduce any shake that you put into the camera as you're taking the shot. Okay, if you don't have one of these, they're probably a worthwhile investment, to be perfectly honest. They're pretty cheap, either online or in a local camera store. And they've got a huge range of purposes. But if you don't have one of those and you want to get started, absolutely just use the camera self-timer. Okay, set it to 2 seconds or whatever, and when you take the shot, hands off, it'll balance itself out and it'll take the shot, and that will also reduce any shake or vibration that you're putting in with handling the camera. In addition to that, purely for consistency, I'm going to have the camera set where I'm happy with it, and I'm probably going to do at least a few shots until I get things quite the way I want it, and that just helps keep things consistent. Okay, so I know that the camera is in the right place, so it's going to be either the items or the lighting or something that I'm going to need to try and change. Obviously, like I say, if you want to go absolutely freehand, you can do, try different angles and so on and so forth. Okay, so camera side set. Now, the next thing you need is somewhere to do it. Okay, a little bit of space. And you can do this in quite a small space as well, because essentially all you really need is a small table. I'm using a big table here just because I have one, so I'm using it. I've got a white blanket, which is just giving me a nice flat base for the photo. Underneath that, let me just flick back here. Underneath there, I have a black photography backdrop as well, so if I want to switch that across, I can do so. And obviously this, again, is entirely up to yourself and what you're shooting and how. If you want to make that particularly colourful, it could be orange or green or blue or whatever you like. Okay. Similarly, for the base, you're also going to want the background. Okay, and again, generally it's going to be nice and plain. So I've got a white piece of card and also a black piece of card here as well. Okay. If you don't have these things, sheet, towel, blanket, anything at all like that that's just going to give you a fairly flat colour is going to do absolutely fine. One thing I would suggest is, if you are using any of these materials, is give them a quick iron first, okay, and that simply takes away from creases and fold lines. It's also going to help if they're well folded. Going to slightly raise a little bit where the fold line is, okay. That's going to mess with the light a little bit. It's going to give you a little bit more reflections in some areas than others. It's not going to look nice and smooth on the shot itself, and it's going to cause you a little bit more hassle after the fact as well when it comes to the post-editing side. Okay, it won't completely ruin everything. You will absolutely be able to work with it, but just make things a little bit easier for yourself. Okay. Next thing you will need is something to shoot, of course. To start off with, I've just got a couple of little house plants here, and we're going to mix and match as I go through. So I've also got a whole range, I'll just bring this up here, I've got a whole range of other stuff across here. We've got some fruits, we've got some camera kit. We're just going to kind of see what I think is going to work and what will end up looking good. So for example, I've got my 2 little plants to start off with here, and I might add to that. I might not like how they're coming out. We're just kind of trial and error more than anything else. The other part of your prep is to have a little bit of a plan if you can. Now, having an idea of what the image should look like in your head at the end of it is massively helpful. If you are just starting out, then you may not necessarily have that just yet. But if you can, have a bit of an idea what you want to be going for. Do you want it bright and airy? Do you want it dark and moody? Do you want it, nice and natural? And if you're not sure, you can as well just have a quick look online at some examples of still life. I'll pop up some kind of throughout these video series as well, just give you a little bit of an idea. So the reason that is helpful is cuts down a lot on the umming and ahhing as you're setting up your session, and also just helps keep things on track, because the next thing you're going to need is a fair bit of time. Okay, now you may sit down and 2 or 3 shots get exactly what you want, and if you do, fantastic and well done for you. However, certainly for myself, I don't think it's going to be that easy. I'm going to try again, a few different scenarios, as I say, a few different lighting styles, and it's going to take me at least an hour, if not a couple of hours. So a good bit of time available is a bonus. Okay. The next thing to think about as well as part of that planning is your composition. If you're not sure of that, that will come. Don't worry about that. So for a quick example, I've got my 2 little plants here. I can just simply have them side by side. Can have one slightly kind of overlapping each other. I can do not a huge amount, to be perfectly honest, with 2 little house plants. So I have another one here, which I can bring in, and I can set that behind, almost giving a little bit of a balance. Okay, just to kind of set up the middle plant with the 2 either side. I can bring this across to the side here, and I can frame this up in what is known as the L shape, where quite simply the bigger plant is given one side of the L and the smaller plants are given the rest of it. So essentially I'm making an L shape either vertically or horizontally. That's the way it's come across. Rule of thirds will work well in still life as well, just depending on how you're setting it up. And the way I'm going to frame it, give or take, is going to be obviously not with all the background in the way, but essentially it's going to be kind of along these sort of lines here, where I'm going to have a little bit of the base showing and a little bit of space all around the objects as well. Okay, I'm going to try and keep everything in frame wherever possible, and again, these are suggestions, these are the rules of composition, but if you want to break them, give it a go and see how it works. Okay, that is about everything for prep. So we're going to move on to start shooting. We're going to start off as simple and basic as we possibly can. So we're going to use window light. Okay, so we're going to use a little bit of natural light. We don't have necessarily any lighting equipment, any flashes, anything like that. So if you are just doing this at home, you are just getting started out, this is something you can crack on with straight away. Okay, so I will see you guys in the next video for natural lighting of still photography. Right.